Afternoon edition, Golden Black Live. Welcome to the show. Stacy and Kyle will sift through segment one, talk some Purdue football. I want to thank our sponsors off the top, Triple X. Not when tomorrow's a big day. That's Hilton Garden Inn, but Triple X is on the hill, but on the level. A Purdue tradition since 1929. John Basham and the good folks at Basham Rental, Hilton Garden Inn, and of course State Farm agent Trent Johnson. Purdue, Illinois tomorrow. I know you're just on the edge of your seats, literally, but can the Boilermakers make it 2 in a row? I'll start with you, Stacy.
Why do I always go first?
Well,
Yes, they can. Will they? I don't know.
Josh Ferguson now is going to be the
Yeah,
starting
I mean,
the Illinois running back, that is.
yeah, obviously we've talked about this a little bit today already, but I think for me, kind of jumping ahead to the prediction segment that we usually do at the end, but kind of
But they're already on the site.
kind of
anyway,
goes here. I hesitate to say yes, Purdue is going to win this game, more because I don't know who. I still don't know what Purdue is. Who is,
Yeah.
who or what? However, we're going to use that. Is this team? I don't think that last week necessarily was an accurate representation of a 55-point offense. You know, in my opinion, I think that it did a fantastic job of taking advantage of short fields and scoring touchdowns,
Oh, yeah.
which you absolutely want for your offense to do. So that was great. But my bigger concern moving forward is, you know, the defense set you up in those great positions. Kudos to the defense, kudos to the offense. But that was kind of a perfect storm game there, and I'm not entirely sure you're going to get very many of those, you know, going forward. So I think that if the offense can show this week against the defense that maybe we're going to give them some opportunities to, you know, get 5 plays, get 6, or, you know, 5 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, you know, and really have to string together a long drive. If Purdue's offense can do that, I'm going to feel a lot better about them than I do right now. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit hesitant to say that Purdue is going to win this game when Illinois maybe certainly isn't a powerhouse.
Yeah.
She's saying, like I am, that we're not confident yet in Purdue. And we're more confident in Illinois' inabilities right now, I think. And maybe that's the reason why we're picking Purdue in this game. I'm just not sold that Illinois isn't anything. I know they're not anything super. I think that they might be on the verge of collapsing here a little bit down the stretch. And maybe it started last weekend. And, you know, that's why I think that Purdue can come away with a victory today. They can make it tomorrow, can make it 2 in a row. You know, for Purdue to get out of this spiral that they've been in, maybe it takes a couple of opponents in a row here where things are going dramatically wrong for them, and they sort of give Purdue a couple of victories. Now, Purdue earned last week, certainly, by getting those turnovers and scoring off of them, but
Yep.
they took advantage of a Nebraska team that was falling apart and didn't have its quarterback. Maybe Purdue, again, can take advantage of an Illinois team that seems to be running out of steam here down the stretch a little bit. And if they do that, maybe they get some confidence and some things go well for them over the last 3 weeks then. Maybe that's what it takes for Purdue to get confident enough to be able to feel like it can beat other teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at Illinois. I mean, yes, last week 39-0, 11 yards in the second half, I think it was, against Penn State. But you have a what?
We didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Dang, that's not good.
It's true.
I'm not saying it's not true. We're just saying,
This,
like, wow.
but
It's a good note.
Yikes.
I think that's what I read. That's
what you were led to believe.
My comprehension. No, but they didn't. Their slide is one game. I mean, they got beat by Wisconsin 24-13 at home, but they played Iowa strong. 29-20, very good game in Iowa City. That was a very competitive game all the way through, and you know, Darrell Hazel talked about a defensive front that can slow. I mean, you know, Purdue and
Every
Illinois.
week the opponent has like the best linebacking core in the country or the best
Well, but-
secondary in the country.
Purdue and Illinois, I mean, are
If you're
in
listening.
similar spots last year. Illinois' defense was historically bad last year. It's made some decent improvements because you have nowhere to go but up, and Purdue has been somewhat in the same boat. I don't know. I do think it's going to be – it does worry me for 2 reasons. One, because I think I have been wrong every week. every game this year that I have thought that, at one of those 50-50 games
Yeah.
where I thought Purdue was going to win, I picked it wrong, and I picked Purdue this week. I also think this does tell a lot about where Purdue is as a football program, because if you can work your way through this game and get the job done, I think you can at least say, you've done it 2 weeks in a row, and it does give you an opportunity in the last 3 weeks of the season to get that one more win that at least, we're not saying lots here, but at least get Purdue to 4 wins, which would be, in fact, an improvement. So there you go. But,
I think that's true, that every 50-50 game that you have felt is a 50-50 game, whether it was or not.
well,
has
Virginia
gone
Tech
against
wasn't,
Purdue.
but
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So I think that's an interesting deal. And selfishly, I'd love to have at least an off season where there was some positive mojo coming out, just because from our perspective, it just
can
makes it
there
a
be,
little
though?
more.
What would it take?
I don't think beating Indiana and beating Illinois is going to flip the table. Don't
No.
get me wrong. It'll make it better. It's all a matter of degree, and in my view. And I think beating Northwestern or winning 3 out of the last 4 also won't flip the table,
Yeah.
but it will make it even more better. Winning the last 4, and it might get your attention. So
That would get
going
your
to a
attention. I
bowl.
think that's it. I think getting to
Yeah.
the bowl, but I mean, that's
Yeah,
just.
and that's right now a little bit on the crazy talk side, but I do think that it's going to be interesting, and that ultimately is what I'm looking for, is let's stay interested and engaged in this. That would be a big.
At least if they win tomorrow, in my opinion, it makes the next 2 weeks, both of the next 2 weeks, really a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, oh,
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, at least there'll be some interest. That's all you can ask for at this point, right? I mean, win against
Yeah.
Illinois, and you at least have people watching a little bit those next 2 weeks.
Well, Northwestern and Iowa, even though Iowa's undefeated, and some say that they're going to be 12-0 heading to Indianapolis, is not a great football team. I mean, not a dominating football team. So again, you got to walk before you run if you're Purdue in this situation. All right, offensive turnovers, biggest surprise last week. We kind of hit on this, but what were you going to say? The defense's ability to make turnovers, and I was a little bit critical. More critical than I should have been, probably, about saying that Nebraska just handed Purdue, the turnovers. I thought Anthony Brown, after going back and watching it again, made a couple really, really good plays. But what was the bigger surprise to you? The Boilermakers being able to convert and score? I'll start with you, Kyle. Or was it the defense's ability to get turnovers, or neither?
The offense was more surprising to me because we sat here a week ago and
Yeah.
said that they looked terrible on Tuesday and Wednesday during practice, and they did. In our defense, they looked terrible. I think anybody out there, aside from maybe the coaches, would have told you so. So that was surprising to me. Surprised, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but pleased that they changed the scheme to take advantage of the strengths of their quarterback. Stacy has said it, and I'll steal her words, that we felt like Blau was the perception was that he could roll out a little and do some things with his feet and make things happen. And, as it turned out, he was able to do that for Purdue. And, it was good to see Purdue finally go to that. It took them too long, I think, to do it. Game start number 5 for Blau before we saw maybe the style quarterback that he should be, and that he can have the most success being. That was the most surprising to me.
I think the thing to make sure we say here, because we've said it so many other places, but in case for whatever reason people only watch the show, is David Blau himself this week said, I'm 6 foot tall. I have trouble seeing sometimes. I
Yeah.
need to get rolling out so I can see the field better. When your quarterback is flat out more comfortable and more confident doing a certain thing, and I get that you need to be able to throw from the pocket. You have to. And as a Big Ten quarterback, you have to be able to throw
Yeah.
from the pocket.
I agree.
But when he's a first-time starting quarterback, let him do what he feels really good about. And then once he does that well, then kind of let's make him something that he's not. Or you know what I mean? Help him be better at what he's
Well,
not
when opponents
good
take
at.
it away, because
Right, you're
Illinois
going to
has
have to.
Illinois, I mean, if they have any sort of defensive front, they are going to try and scheme something to keep him closer to being in the pocket on some of those rollouts. So, he's going to have to be able to make an adjustment and figure out ways to be more successful from within the pocket. But yeah, why don't you start with that? Start with he's a young quarterback who does have some skill, it seems, like running the ball and with some of those run pass options. And maybe when he has only one or two options for where to put the football. We saw that Saturday. Unfortunately, he didn't get many opportunities before Saturday to do that.
But against Bowling Green, he did throw. I know he didn't throw any long passes, but he did throw for over 300 yards in his first start. So it did.
Who was it against?
Bowling Green. I understand. I understand. But it's still, right now, where some of the teams, I understand it's not Wisconsin, but it is a situation that, I think you have to put him in the best position. He did seem very comfortable. You had something you wanted to say.
He also got the ball out of his hands really fast against Bowling Green. If you go back and watch
Yeah.
that game, he was in the pocket, but it was out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
so
messing
that
around.
so that is something to definitely consider when you look at that Bowling Green game too. I was just going to answer this question. I think that they kind of go hand in hand to me. I mean, I think that the reason that we're talking about the offense is because the turnovers put them in position. So, but I think this defense, the offense needed it too, but I really feel like the defense felt like maybe it was getting going a little bit, And so to be able to have a game where you really capitalize and then not just get a turnover, but put your offense in the best position that it can be in, I think for me, this was a bigger performance by the defense. Obviously, they kind of jacked some stuff up in the fourth quarter there and kind of looked like the old defense a little bit with missing tackles and allowing big plays. But I think, for the defense to be able to have 2 games in a row where you don't allow a lot of rushing yards and you feel like maybe at least that front can get some confidence, I think that was the big thing for me coming out of that game.
Yeah, we figured two games under 100 yards, first time since
2010.
2010 it was, and that is a step in the right direction. And I'm talking about holding an opponent under 100 yards rushing. That will be a challenge tomorrow, maybe not. Depends how strong Josh Ferguson is in that situation.
Without him, Illinois only had 140 total rushing yards the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and Keyshawn
So-
Vaughn, who Purdue fans know about, is a guy that has been averaging about 60 yards a game, but only 3.9 yards a carry, I think. So that will be an interesting thing, though. It will be important for Purdue to, I would think, to be able to shut the run down. And though Lunt's going to throw for some yards, he has pretty much every game all year, and he did last year in 3 quarters against Purdue when he had 332 or so. All right, we've kind of answered our third subject, but reasonable expectations. And again, that one might insinuate that there's high expectations, and I don't know that is true right now. Reasonable expectations for the rest of the season. If you were going to put a crystal ball to it, how many more wins?
I need to see what they do
These
this week.
questions are impossible.
I know.
Why don't you guys
I
come
really do
to be
want-
ready to come and talk?
It's really important to me what they do this week because I kind of wrote about this in my prediction. Like, good teams beat teams they should beat, right?
Right.
And I guess Purdue kind of did that last week, right? I mean, Nebraska was a team that was beaten up and, missing a lot of key guys, and Purdue got the win. So, to me, I kind of view this game similarly. Illinois is a team that, yes, Ferguson's coming back, but we've talked about kind of their fragile psyche right now, and this is a game that it's at home. You just got to win. You probably should win this game. So if Purdue takes care of business on Saturday, I feel a lot better. Obviously, we're going to all feel a lot better going into the rest of the season if Purdue wins this game. If Purdue loses, then we're like, they're not going to win again. But if you win this one, then you think, wow, maybe they can win at Northwestern. So to me, I think that's a really hard question to answer. I think that because I said earlier, I don't know who this is. So if they're able to have another game and win 2 in a row, that changes things for my expectations for the rest of the season.
One thing. Oh, go ahead.
Apparently, there's a lot of people with money who think Illinois is going to win the game because that line has moved so much, which I think is a little bit surprising to me, how far it has swung in the last 24 hours from Illinois being a 2.5-point favorite to 5-point favorite. Now, that not always telling, but apparently some people think the Illini are going to be able to come in and win, which I think is interesting because I think the general feeling is that Purdue will be able to get them at home.
Yeah, and one thing to remember, and I know we're down on Illinois because the 39-0 loss last week, and is that Illinois, if they have any hope of making a bowl game, has to win this week. I mean, pretty much. They obviously have Ohio State at home. They go to Minnesota. They go to Northwestern, or they play Northwestern at Soldier Field. So, Bill Cubitt has a lot to play for it. I don't know. You guys have talked more to the folks from Illinois, but what the feeling is with respect to his chances of getting this job after this year, he needs to. We have a zero from the peanut gallery, which he may be right, but they still, at least get to a bowl game would be an important thing.
we talked to Matt Daniels from the News Gazette for our podcast earlier, and he thought before the season started they'd need 7 or 8. Well, they're not going to get 8.
No.
And 7 would be pretty hard to do at this point. So, I think it's the peanut gallery over here is probably right. I think it's if Illinois loses to Purdue,
Well, then they're
there's no
4
way.
and 5. Then they
There's no way.
I
I
mean, they
mean,
get Ohio
this
State
is-
next week.
for
so.
his tenure, this is a must-win. So, to me, that do the players rally up for him a little bit in this game? Maybe. But if that was the case, wouldn't you think they would have rallied up a little bit last week too?
Yeah, possibly. Anything to add to that
Nope.
that discussion? Nothing to add to that. So, one last thing for tomorrow, is what to, and you obviously hit this on the podcast as well, but who needs to be individually you're looking to watch to step up to needs to make a step forward? Anybody that you're watching in particular?
Well, we both picked the two ends on the defensive side, the rush end and the defensive end, as our sort of players to watch in the game. And guys that we expected to be able to do well, and sometimes that turns into guys who need to do well for Purdue to win. And I think in this case it probably did with Jalen Robinson and Evan Panfill, because talking to Greg Hudson earlier in the week, Wes Lunt is a sort of an immobile quarterback who stands in the pocket, but he stands deep in the pocket, and it's going to be up to Purdue's two ends to be able to get back there and sort of get in his face a little bit, because I think that, in combination with Purdue maybe playing some man defense, which we understand has struggled a bit more against this season,
Yeah.
Maybe that's a formula for Purdue's defense to have a pretty good day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually picked Jalen and stole Kyle's pick, but I got to go first. So, and I think it's not just about their importance to this week. Obviously, it's their importance every week, but we've seen that front, and I think especially Robinson, since he's started again, really kind of find a groove. And I think Panfil's certainly been playing better the last couple weeks too. And so I kind of make fun of a lot of the confidence talk and how often they use that word over there. But I think really for these guys specifically, they just are guys who are fueled by emotion. And so I think the better they play, the harder they're going to play. And I think for Purdue's front, that's going to be really important going forward, and definitely this week.
All right. There you have it. If you want more, visit goldenblack.com, and a lot on the site today talking about Purdue, Illinois football. Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break, bring Brian Newbert in. We'll talk some basketball as well as a little bit of recruiting. Stephanie White will join us in segment 3. We've heard from Stephanie. She's making her way from campus up here to visit with us, and we'll look forward to that as well. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a couple of minutes on Golden Black Live.